Hello, hello, and welcome to American Africans United. And we want to thank Afrique Today for allowing us this opportunity to come to you again this Friday. I am your host, Yvette Butler Yaboa, and my co-host, the Invisible Man, who, of course, you won't see because he is the Invisible Man. And so we're really excited today to be able to host a show of Reparations Part 2. If you've been watching with us, we have done one show on reparations, and we're going to continually do these topics until we get our reparations.
That's right.
And so we're really excited today to bring to you Reparations Part 2. So we're going to start off with a really quick video that was done on the floor recently by a congresswoman. And this has been the buzzword around reparations, but it's truly something that shouldn't be a buzzword, but should be a reality, especially for those of us here in the United States. So without further ado, could you please play the video clipping?
But what are reparations anyway? And how do they work? Today's baggage, reparations. Reparations for slavery isn't all about getting that bag. It's part of it, for sure, but it's also about acknowledging and reconciling a wrong. In the United States, that wrong is what some would call this country's original sin, slavery. Something that we have never actually confronted. And in 2019, the chatter around reparations is louder than ever. Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee sponsored a bill to study reparations proposals in January, and reparations have become a hot ticket issue for 2020 presidential candidates.
Reparations.
Should black people get reparations?
I think there has to be some form of reparations, and we can discuss what that is.
While there are debates about what reparations look like, one scholar suggests starting with acknowledging the atrocity, aka slavery.
The material consequences of a history of state-sanctioned and state-complicit violence, extraction, exploitation, and fraud, as well as policies committed against black people, manifest in terms of the racial wealth gap in an obvious way. The fact that blacks make up 12 to 14% of the population, but own probably something in the order of less than 4% of the country's wealth, or maybe 3%. I think that's indicative of a material consequence.
You want to know why that's crazy? I'll tell you why. Over $600 million, or just about half of the country's economic activity in 1836, came directly or indirectly from cotton. Cotton-producing enslaved people were just 6% of the population, and we're only talking about cotton here. Enslaved people helped build this nation's wealth, but once they were emancipated, the system made sure that the formerly enslaved couldn't build wealth.
But the consequences go well beyond material. The large disparities that exist across race isn't because blacks are defective people, but rather there were events that have taken place both in the past and currently that have led to these gross inequalities.
Wait. Before we go too far in this conversation, let's talk about the beginnings of reparations for slavery. The idea has been around for around 150 years. I'm guessing that you've heard the phrase 40 acres and a mule? No, Spike Lee, not your production company. During the Civil War, hundreds of black refugees
we're going to go ahead and cut the video now, and we're going to bring in our guest. And without further ado, I'd like to actually tell you a little about my guest. Now, I'm not sure, do you guys see yourselves on the screen? I think we're having some technical difficulties where I'm seeing something else on the screen.
I see myself.
You see yourself?
Yes, I do.
I can see myself as well.
Okay, wonderful. I guess I am not seeing you guys. I have something else on my screen. But that's okay. But I said we're really excited today. We have two amazing guests who actually can tell a little about reparations and actually we remember callers. You can call in. So can we put the call-in number up there as well? So this is a live show where callers can also call in and ask questions. So without further ado, I want to introduce my first guest, Robert Stubberfield, who is an author, an activist, poet, and organizer located in the district DMV, which is the District of Columbia, Maryland, and Virginia, because this actually is a live show worldwide. So some people might not know what DMV is, but that's for the District of Columbia, Maryland, and Virginia. He currently works with an organization such as the Bethesda African Cemetery Coalition, who's fighting right now. We're fighting hard right now. We need all your support actually to come out and stop the desecration of the oldest and most historical African cemetery here in Bethesda, Maryland. He also is part of the Young People of Progress, Montgomery chapter of the Democratic Socialists of America, and showing up for racial justice in Montgomery County. And I'm excited to say he just had a first book debut, his first poetry book out. Is it the first one, Robert?
Yeah, it's my first one.
All the way to the end.
Wonderful, wonderful. We need to actually look at this book. It's called Written in Blood. And Written in Blood in its anthology 2011 to 2018. It is now out. And Robert, you can give us a little bit more about that. But let me introduce my other guest to you also. We have Ajani Mukaram. Ajani Mukaram is with the Lost Nation of Islam, and he is a well-renowned author and informationalist about reparations. Done a lot of work on that, and he's going to tell us a little bit about Afro-descendants, and also he's well-known, and he's from Georgia. Am I correct?
That's correct.
So he's calling from Georgia tonight. So we're really excited to have both of these gentlemen on tonight. And so without further ado, I want to turn it over to my panelists. And I'm going to start with Ajani to just tell us a little bit more about Afro-descendant. And then Robert, then I want you to jump in afterwards.
Okay, great.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Butler. The Afro-descendant is a term that's recognized in the United Nations. We've been doing work there since about 1995. The Honorable Salas Mohammed went to Geneva, Switzerland to make interventions on behalf of Black people, African American, to forced mixed breeding and rape. And we have experienced through force the loss of our mother tongue, culture, and religion, and have experienced racial discrimination due to lost ties or partially lost ties from our original identity. So this term is different than African American, because I could be a white person in Africa that moved to America and be called an African American. But I can't be a white person in Africa who moves to America and be called an Afro-descendant, because they have not experienced one day of chattel slavery. Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you. So let's go in and let's really talk about what we just saw. So Robert, I want you to tell us a little bit about, give us your position on reparations, and what did that video really tell you?
Okay, well, first, let me just say thank you for having me. And it's going to be hard to follow the Governor General, but I'll try my best. I am for reparations, and the reason why I'm for reparations, especially particularly in the United States, is for one reason. We built this nation. We built it. We built it with our blood, our sweat, our tears. We pretty much came out, we built the wealth of this country, but we were forbidden from participating in its bounty. And what that video showed, it really showed what we already know, but it really goes into a lot more detail in terms of having, having some sort of wealth, but it goes into acknowledgement. And acknowledgement is very important because a few years ago, we just got the African American History Museum and Center. And then 2 years later, we just got the lynching memorial in Alabama. If you go anywhere in Germany right now, especially in Berlin, you cannot walk anywhere within a mile without seeing some sort of acknowledgement or memorial or apology to the Holocaust. These are conversations that are just now being had. And my thing is that we can talk about studies, but studies have come out and shown that we are definitely way more than owed. So it's time for reparations now. That's how I see it.
Thank you so much. And so one thing I want to say was we have not got acknowledgement. They haven't done any restitution, and it's reconciliation. That's some of the things I really think we should really push for reparations. But I won't talk much about that. I wanted to tell us the reason why reparations should even be a topic today. Why should we be talking about this today?
You want to go first, Governor General, or should I?
Well, I went first the first time. You can take I'll give you the floor and I'll follow.
Okay, thank you. Well, part of the reason why reparations is a hot topic now is, look at what's going on. One of the things that was going on even pre-COVID is that, according to a study that came out by the Community Wealth Institute with a joint study with Brookings, it said that in 2016, it's going to take 228 years for African Americans, particularly those who are descendants of formerly enslaved Africans, to catch up to the wealth that white people had at that time. What COVID has done, in my opinion, it has literally changed that. It's really wiped that out. It's really helped expose the flaws within the system. And the reason why it's very important now, because for so long we've been skirting around the issue, and what we need to do now is we need to confront it. And that is, one, reparations deals with repairing, and that is we're repairing a community to make them whole again. That's very clear that we understand that what reparations truly means. It truly means let us repair. All right. And it's very important that we really, one, not only do we acknowledge the history, but we take the steps to rectify that as well. So if I left anything out, I'm pretty sure Governor General will pick up. So
Thank you, Brother Stubberfield. Very well said. Why reparations? Because we've been damaged. 400 years of systematic racism and chattel slavery has left us a nothingless people. Lost our identity, lost our culture, lost our religion, and we're considered in America, which is the greatest country going, a 3/5 of a human, according to the Constitution. And they never changed that writing in their Constitution. So in their minds, they still see us as their property. And why even the term Black Lives Matter? All lives matter. But why do we have to get a slogan that says Black Lives Matter? Because they murder us, kill us, and treat us like we're that 3/5 of a human. And so in the international world, where I've been studying with the Honorable Salas Muhammad for years, international law says, and I'd like to just quote it for you. Under international law, reparations must, as far as possible, wipe out all the consequences of the illegal act and reestablish the situation which would have been in all probability had this act never existed. And we know this is the worst crime in the humanity, the transatlantic slave trade. And so to put us back where we would have been after 400 years of slavery, that would be reparation, and that's repair. And that's a lot of money, support, equipment, and you go forward. We don't want the handout that they're offering. We want true and complete reparations. Put us back to the place we would have been had this dehumanizing act not occurred.
Thank you so much. And a question I have is, why is it so hard for individuals who don't look like us, and some of those who do look like us, why do they think reparations, we don't need reparations? And then I want you to talk a little bit about what's going on around the country right now, what people are doing, and is it truly reparations, like what North Carolina did?
Perfect. I'll take that first of all. The first thing I see is that when we went to the UN back in the 1990s, the first thing the sub-commissioners on human rights said is, we thought you were happy, that you have become a part of the melting pot. And we didn't realize that you wanted to be able to self-determine. You wanted self-determination, that you wanted to be able to spread your wings. Because you hear the tenements coming from most people that Black people are happy in America, but they really don't understand our struggle. We have not forgotten, and we still suffer from the lingering effects. Sickle cell anemia, it's a slave's disease. It's only prevalent in Black people here in the United States of America. So it's a slave disease. So why do people not think we deserve it? It's because they think that we are, if you will, fat and happy in America, and we're not. Our neighborhoods don't look like others' neighborhoods. Our streets, our living conditions, although we live in a first world country, some of our living conditions are third world. So we need restitution and repair. And we need people to understand that we're not happy just being here getting a handout. We want full and complete reparations.
Mrs. Stubberfield, can you comment on that?
I'm actually in 100% agreement with Mr. Mukaram's statement. I'll go a little bit further from the standpoint of when people, even some of our own, who may disagree, like we don't deserve reparations. Some people, it's because they've bought into the myth that America is the land of opportunity, and America is only the land of opportunity if you are born rich and if you are born white. If you are born Black, there is no opportunities. And I know people will point out what about Oprah Winfrey? What about Michael Jordan? Here's some facts. At the end of the Civil War, when we were formerly freed, we only owned 1/2 of 1% of all the wealth in this nation. Now let's fast forward to 2020. Despite Oprah, despite the Magic Johnsons and the LeBron James, and I'm not knocking their accomplishments, because I do celebrate Black success. But when you look at us as a whole, we still only own 1/2 of 1% of all the wealth in this nation. So that's part of the reason. The other thing that we also got to take a look at is not only the effects of slavery, but also the effects of like Jim Crow, where essentially whenever we did try to build wealth of our own, like Tulsa and Rosewood, they bombed us. And when we did try the Marcus Garvey solution of let us try to go back to Africa, they sabotaged our boat, so we couldn't even go.
Yes.
And then if we were to fast forward with the history of redlining, that pretty much said that not only are we going to put Black people in the worst areas, we're not even going to invest in their communities. We're not going to invest in their schools. And then whenever we had leaders like Dr. King, like Malcolm, like the Panthers, like the Republic of New Africa, when they came up and said, no, this is not acceptable, they were hunted down by the government. Either some of our leaders went into self-imposed exile or they were killed. And to get to the second part of our question with what reparations with some of the things that have been going on, like Georgetown University's been doing in Asheville, North Carolina.
Yeah.
My opinion is that I have a little bit of a mixed situation, and let me explain where I'm coming from. I think what Georgetown is doing with like those who are descendants of slaves that Georgetown University used to own, like giving them free tuition, I think it's a decent starting point. But I feel that it's something that has to be done more so at the national level, because slavery and Jim Crow was tolerated and accepted at the national level. And when we take a look at Asheville, North Carolina, from my understanding of their Reparations Act, it's merely just what their tax dollars are supposed to be doing, and that's you're supposed to be investing in these communities. Where my fear comes in, and this is comes from seeing what's happened over history, is they may try and use that as an excuse to try to gentrify Black areas, pushing out the Black inhabitants in Asheville. I mean, I hope I'm wrong, but history kind of tells otherwise. So.
Yeah, I was very surprised, and thank you guys both so much for those comments. I was very surprised when my daughter came to me and said, "Oh, Mom, guess what? They're giving reparations in North Carolina." I'm like, let's really evaluate what they're really doing in North Carolina. Are they getting money? What are they getting? And just investing in the community is not really going far enough. And as you were saying, once they invest and turn that community around, then what? are they still going to allow us to stay in that community? And so that's not really empowering us to really have any economical power. And I want to show a slide. Can we pull the slide up showing where the gap in economics is between blacks and whites? Can we please show that slide? I want to show you this slide so that we can get a true depiction. And then I want you to talk a little bit about this and how reparations can play into this at this point in time. Can we please have the slide pulled up showing the wealth gap? All right, so while they get that slide, they're getting that slide up. I want to just ask them another question while they get that slide, because I want people to really look at the slide that we have here showing the wealth gap, and how can we, as community activists, people here, just the common folk, how can we be really involved in this reparation movement? Because it's going to take a movement to really make a difference, and we have this opportunity now that we should not let this opportunity go. But what does reparations, how should reparations be given, and what would reparations look like if we were to get reparations?
Dr. Butler, if we looked at the history of reparations, and there's been people that's been paid reparations. So you take, for example, the Japanese who were here in America during World War II, who were put in concentration camps, and they had the country of Japan to support them. And so the United States of America gave each individual, I think it was $20,000 check. I'm not saying give black people money. Afro descendants don't need money. We'll spend that money right back into America and be broke probably in 2 weeks and have the finest car on the street. I'm not saying like that. But if we look at the example of what occurred with the Native American, the United States of America heard a fever in them, a fervor. They were getting ready, saying, hey, we need to be a nation again. And so the United States of America, and they used the term, implemented a 3-step termination policy against the Native America. First, they integrated them, come into mainland America. Secondly, they lowered the criteria. It's called affirmative action. And so they allow them to come in and get jobs and education at a reduced, does it sound familiar? And then the third thing they did is they paid reparations, but they paid them some $818 million. But today, when you look out, where is the Native America? Or have they in fact been terminated based on this 3-step policy? Integration, affirmative action, and reparations. So we've gone through integration, and we know what it did for the black community. We lost black businesses and black hotels and black restaurants. We've gone through affirmative action where they lowered the criteria. And so we've got an education, but we still a second-class citizen. And now today, reparation is on the lips and in Congress and in these cities. But we have to say, the Honorable Salis Muhammad said, be cautious. Be wise on how you ask for reparations. And the best, and I can come back to this later, the best example to watch is what happened when the Jewish people decided to get reparations. They went to the League of Nations. And I'll leave it there. I'll come back to that point later once you get your slide up.
Okay, we're still trying to get that. So we're still trying to get that slide up. So the slide hasn't come up yet. So another question I have now. One thing you did say that if they give us money now, we'll spend it. And one of the things that we do is on behalf of American Africans United, and what we're doing as we do these reparation talks, we're also doing talks on how to create wealth. So we can teach our individuals not to put money right back into the system, but to create generational wealth for us and our children and our children's children. And how do we do that? So establishing businesses, be more entrepreneurial, and really helping them understand how to spend their money and not just put it back into the system. Because right now we don't own much. And so we can't have it revolve around in our circles. But I think we'll get to that point if we teach people now how to create businesses so that we can then support one another. So I want to ask now, what does Robert? Could you please tell us what does reparations look like to you, and how can we get there?
Okay, so this is a bit of a complicated answer because I feel that reparations to me, it's a holistic program. For me, yes, it includes cash payments, but it also includes technical support for those who do want to start businesses. That includes interest-free loans or guaranteed grants, as well as quality technical assistance. Something that typically I feel gets left out of the reparations question is land. And land has to be part of that discussion, I feel, because land is power. Land is one of the few things that is one of the few things, in fact, I think it's the only thing that actually increases in value over time. So we need to take a look at land redistribution. We need to take a look at cash payments. We need to take a look at business support. We also need to take a look at, for those who are struggling with student loan debt, we need to take a look at student loan debt forgiveness. Because in my opinion, how on earth are you going to penalize a people for trying to get an education to try to better themselves and better their communities? And more importantly, as far as I see it, after spending centuries of not letting us learn how to read, not letting us into your schools, as far as I'm concerned, you owe us that education, period. There's a couple of things too, but I think it has to be a holistic approach. Cash payments, land, business support, like any debt forgiveness, and those are the main takeaways that I feel.
Might I add to that?
Absolutely.
I totally agree with you. It has to be holistic. And if we look at the way the Jewish nation received reparations from Germany, they received land and money and security support for years. So their reparation payments started in 1948. Here it is 2020, and they're still getting financial support to support a land. And key under Article 1 in the United Nations is the right to self-determination. And what is that? Essentially, the right to self-determination is the right of a people to determine their own destiny and to choose, in any particular way, the principles that allow those people a political status, economic status, cultural and social development, and a land and a government that they could call their own. It allows you to be self-determining. Right here, even in America, if we started businesses, the tax money from your business goes to support the United States of America. Whereas you look at Israel, the tax benefits from Israel supports what? Israel, because they are a sovereign nation. And so we got to think, I know I may be a little arrogant to think everyone wants sovereignty, but there are some of us in the Afro-descendant nation that want a land and a nation that we can call our own. And we think we should be supported for the next 25 to 50 years, just like the Jewish nation has been, until we can get our land and our government up and rolling. So that's holistic for me.
Yeah, I think we got the slide working. Can we get the slide back up? Because I really want to have this slide put up so people can really understand what it looks like here in the United States for African Americans and those who from the white community, where this wealth gap is. Can we please get that slide up now? I think it was working. We'd get the slide back up, and can we lead that slide up while our two panelists discuss that slide a bit? Can we get the slide back up, please?
Pierre might have went back to sleep, but while
I hope he has gone back to sleep. But I think the slide's been going up and down.
Yes,
so I'm hoping that he can. Can you guys see the slide at all yet?
No,
I cannot.
No,
I wanted to make a comment, if I could.
Yes.
Of the 100 largest cities in this country, 39 have had elected black mayors. In 2018, 57.1% of black mayors served in cities over 40,000. that did not have a black majority population. And the number dropped to 40.6 and 40.6% in 2018. So when I'm getting to something that has been discussed, are we able to govern ourselves, and should we be given the chance to go for ourselves and practice self-determination? And before anybody answers, you know and I know that they're not going to give us any land inside of America. So go with the question.
Well, before we go to the question,
Yes,
we got the slide. We got the slide up, and then hold that. Everyone, hold that thought, because it's going to roll right back into what this slide looks like. So the slide is up. I'm not sure if the panelists can see the slide. Can you see the slide, panelist?
I cannot.
I can.
I can see it.
Okay, now you can probably see the
I
slide.
can see it now.
All right, so it's large on the screen. So can you look at this slide here and just now, unfortunately, the orange or the red is us.
No.
And we don't have to say what the other ones are. So can you guys please talk a little bit about what this slide depicts, and how can we truly get reparations, and how can we balance this scale?
Okay, so looking at this chart on the racial wealth gap, it reminds me a lot of two books. One by Andrew Hacker, which is Black and White, Separate and Unequal, and Black Labor, White Wealth by Dr. Claude Anderson. They were discussing this back in the 80s and the 90s. Here we are, is 2020, and it looks like it hasn't even budged, not one bit. Despite all the talk about, the economy this, the economy that, like which economy we're talking about, because you take a look at our economy right now, look at it, it's just like that. Now, how reparations can play a role in balancing that scale is that it can really help get us up to where we need to be, or where we should have been, had not 400 plus years of slavery had not occurred. The only thing that I will, to go back a little bit on two things to add to Mr. Mukaram, is that slavery truly began in the United States in 1526 in what's now known as South Carolina. And in terms of being treated like second-class citizens, we're more so treated like 10th-class citizens. Because when you take a look, there's a book that came out in the 60s called Black Like Me, where the author went undercover as a black person, and he saw how black people were treated in comparison to other folks, and it led him to explain being treated like second-class citizens. He said, well, the Negro, because that was the language used at the time, the Negro in America is treated like a 10th-class citizen. And then going back to your question in terms of how can reparations truly help solve that problem, look at the chart. Look at the chart. The chart should be self-explanatory in a sense how reparations can help us balance that. Now, how do we get there? From the activist organizer perspective, is that it really deals with having to go into our community and truly being able to not only educate, but also to explain why they're necessary and what steps that we need to take. So that's coming from the activist and organizer perspective. In terms of the scholar perspective, we need all the research we can. So whenever we run into, and we're going to run into people who are going to be like, well, why should there be reparations? And this is where I think Mr. Mukaram comes in with his international expertise. He can explain, according to the United Nations, we're owed, and just how the United Nations came up with that, and how we're going to hold every person accountable, elected officials, what have you, and let them know you can't keep ignoring us. If you guys can find reparations for Japanese Americans who were interned in the internment camps, if you're able to find reparations for all these other groups, you can dang sure find reparations for us, for people who truly built this country.
Very well said, Brother Stubberfield.
Very
well. When I look at that chart, you know what I see? I see, and I'll just use my brother here as an example. We're gonna run a 400-yard dash, and we line up, and they say, "Wait a minute, Mukaram, you stay right here. Brother Stubberfield, follow me." They take him to the 300-yard line, and they let him place there. He's got a 300-yard head start. And they fire off the starting gun, pow, and we start running. What's my chances of catching up? The United States of America had 400 years of free labor, slave labor, off the backs of our ancestors. And they say, let bygones be bygones. Why are you still complaining? We don't owe you anything. Of course you do. You've got a 400-year head start. I expect a bigger wealth gap than that chart that you showed. And here's the other thing. Most of what I'm seeing going on now, and the Honorable Silas Muhammad, I'm thankful for his efforts, saw the work in the Congress. But that person in Congress is a descendant of the former slave master. And so it's like I'm in an accident and my car gets damaged. And I go to court saying, rightly so, he hit me in the rear end and my car's damaged. I want it repaired. And I go there and I find out that the person, the defendant, his mother is the judge. The defense attorney is his brother. The actual jurors are a host of his closest friends and relatives. What are my chances of coming out on top in that courtroom? Well, that's what we're doing in America. We're turning around and we're saying, America, you damaged our car. You damaged us as a people. You need to pay us. And they're saying, well, I'm the judge. They're saying, well, I'm the defense attorney and I'm the prosecutor. Guess what? You're going to get things that you're seeing happening in Asheville, North Carolina. We're going to give you a chance to get a better home. We're going to give you a chance to get a business loan. Well, isn't that a right? Is that reparation, or is that just what every American citizen deserves? A good home, a chance for a business loan.
Yes, yes.
That's not reparations. That's a penance. And we've got to turn a quick no to don't try to give us a welfare solution when we want reparations. So let me read the definition under international law one more time. Under international law, reparations must, as far as possible, wipe out all the consequences of the illegal act and reestablish the situation which would in all probability have existed if the act had not been committed. So that's trillions of dollars. Bypass billions. We're talking trillions.
Very well said. We have a caller. Caller, can you please state your name and what your first name and where you're calling from, and we can hear you.
Jael from Detroit, Michigan.
All right, Jael from Detroit, go ahead and ask your question. And for both panelists or one of the panelists, go ahead, Diane.
Yes, my question is for the Governor General. And I wanted to ask the Governor General, is it true that reparations is only given to a nation? And if so, how will Black people or Afro-descendants get that reparation seeing we're such a divided people?
Thank you so much. Governor, you hear that question?
I did. That's a really good question, because reparations are paid from one government to another government. Thus, the Japanese citizens who were interned in the United States of America had Japan to have their back, and so they were paid reparations. The Jewish people who were interned in Germany, they had a government structure going, and so payments were paid from Germany to their new state, Israel. And so today we have, having gone to the international court, this term Afro-descendant, which recognizes us as a people and gives us a right to self-determination. And we have formed a government under the Afro-descendant nation. And under the umbrella of this Afro-descendant nation, we have all different groups. I saw a question that says, can the NAACP be paid reparations? No. Not just to the NAACP, but the NAACP can come under the umbrella of the Afro-descendant nation, just like we did. Members of the Nation of Islam came under the umbrella, and just like members of the Hebrew Israelite nations came under the umbrella of the Afro-descendant nation. And now we have an autonomous structure where we can say, since we're recognized in the UN as Afro-descendant people, we have a right now to go and say, in the UN, you should hear our cry against the United States of America and these other countries throughout the slavery diaspora. They owe us, because under the Afro-descendant nation, it connects not just the 40 million here in America, not just the 80 million in Brazil, but the 250 million throughout the slavery diaspora fit under this Afro-descendant nation. And thus, you need to help us beat the drum and replace this term African American with the term Afro-descendant. Why should we do it? Because we're used to changing names. We were colored, we were nigger, we were Negro, we were black, we were African American. Which one of those names did we choose? Black. We said, say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud. They changed the name, said, call them African Americans. Well, today I'm saying you're used to changing names. It shows an identity crisis. Why not choose a name that has power in the international court and groups you and collects you with 250 million of others just like you? Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you, caller. And question I have now, because you're saying, because since this nation, African nations, it encompasses everyone in the diaspora. Now, what about us here in the United States? How can we get reparations here and now for us?
The Afro-descendant nation, and in fact, we went to the UN. But the UN doesn't pay reparations. The UN, what they did was help us establish our identity, because we had an identity crisis, having gone through 400 years of plantation slavery, and thus all the name changes. And you can ask yourself, when have the Chinese been other than Chinese? When have the Koreans been other than Koreans? When have the Germans been other than German? Only in America, or only through the slavery diaspora, do you see colored, Negro, a name change, which shows an identity crisis. So the first step was getting recognized and gaining our identity. And now that we have our identity, now we should bring our collective sources. All these grassroots organizations should come under this umbrella of Afro-descendant, which gives us more power. And we can first start our work here in the United States. But it's bigger than just our problem. But charity starts at home. So we could start here, as you're saying, Dr. Butler, and begin to push and work and put pressure. But ultimately, I think we have to go out to the international court, because we need an arbitrator in our case against the United States of America. That's how we get going. Let's mobilize under this Afro-descendant nation and then take our claim out there to the international court like the Jewish people did, and put some pressure on the United States of America.
I have a comment, if I may.
Yes.
Thank you. Part of what I wanted to say dealt with reparations, but I mentioned earlier that there was a tour. The Chief Minister, Minister Najib Muhammad, went on a tour in 2015 and 2016, where he took the idea of reparations to several cities, 9 or 10 cities in this country. Then Juneteenth, when they had the hearing last year, the Invisible Man was there. But I want to take you back to September 27th of 2016, where the conclusion, as part of a study by the United Nations Working Group of experts of people of African descent. But you see, as the Governor General just spoke, we have to make it known that we are not of African descent, we are Afro descendants. And that'll make the big difference. So I think that's part of the problem. And my final comment is, what we need to do is what he just suggested has been done and been successful for other people. Can we have a conclave and get all of our people to sit down together and cooperate? And I know you have been talking about that, Dr. Butler, so that's what's on my mind. Comment?
Any comments? Because what I was going to say is this show is by American Africans United. So we have been working to unite us as a global people, of people here in the diaspora. And as hard as it is, so very, very difficult for us to come together under one accord. But I think that we should come together on our commonalities. And one thing that is a commonality, first of all, the color of our skin. That's the first thing. The blood that runs deep in our blood is the blood from the continent of Africa. So we have those things in common. Then we also have in common, we're all discriminated against. We all want good education. We all want good homes. We all want certain things for our communities. So there's a lot that we can come together on. And unfortunately, we have so many divided groups, and we always get these infiltrators. We get these infiltrators who want to stop the movement.
Yes, ma'am.
And so how can we, as people who are African descendants, who have the blood, and I tell people, my blood runs deep in Africa, even though I was born here in the United States. And how can we come together on one accord here in this continent to really start unity and moving forward?
If I may start off with that question, if I may.
Sure.
Part of it, I feel we have to listen to what Marcus Garvey once said when he was doing his Back to Africa movement. He said that, and I'm paraphrasing, that we have to accept the fact that there are some of us brothers and sisters that are no good here, that would be no good over there. And what he meant by that is, like, going back to the issue of infiltration, is that we got to accept the fact that, unfortunately, even though I may feel a little greedy in the sense that I want to save them all, at the same time, we can't really save them all. And I think when we accept that, it'll make it easier for us to spot out those who do want to infiltrate what it is that we're trying to do. That's part of it. The second thing is we got to really take a look at groups like the Panthers and the Republic of New Africa. Their greatest strength was that they welcomed everybody. The greatest weakness, they welcomed everybody. It was really easier for infiltrators to go in there and sabotage everything that they tried to do. So what does that mean is that we got to look at that and come up with a better screening process to see how serious are you about that. We also got to take a look, and one of the things that that's beautiful about this day and age versus back then is the power of social media. You know, if I want to take a look at everything about you, is the social media is a track record. I can take a, you can say that you're down for the cause, but if I see that you had tweets or you made videos saying, F black people, this is why black men go with white women, or this, that, and the third, we can just be like, interesting, and just say, next. So.
Well, you know, we have another caller, and let's get this caller on, because I'm liking this discussion, and before we get the caller, I really want to make sure we start some steps on what we do next too. Caller, state your first name and where you're from and your question.
Hi, yeah, this is Chuck Williams. I'm from Montgomery County, Maryland. First of all, I'd like to thank Brother Stubberfield for inviting me onto this discussion. And let me also say that I also agree with the term Afro-descendants. When we start to speak of racism and those things, and when we start to speak of reparations, here's my thought, if I can throw it in there as well. The first thing we have to do is we have to re-examine the construct of what we're talking about, because we have to keep in mind several things. One is it was European countries that captured us in Africa, brought us to this diaspora in the Western Hemisphere. So we go from Brazil, South America, all the way up to North America. So as the brother pointed out, we're pretty scattered in that sense. It's not just America. Second, we have to look at what each of those governments have done to Afro-descendants. What was done in Brazil? What was done in America? What was done in Cuba? What was done in all of those places? For that matter, what was done in Haiti? Because even though they overthrew Napoleon, they still forced them to pay reparations.
Even today, that's right.
Even today. And then lastly, we also have to look at what was done in the continent of Africa with King Leopold in the Congo. We have to look at, my understanding, and it may be internet legend, I don't know, but the rumor is is that there are African nations, some 14 African nations, that are still paying money back to France and other European nations because when they came in, colonized, built roads and things, when they left, they forced them to repay them for all that they built in their land. I don't know if that's true or not. That's
It's true.
It's totally true. That is not an urban legend. That is happening still today. So that is very, very true.
Exactly. So when we look at reparations, and as you say, if we're going to look at it from the standpoint of Afro descendants, we have to change the construct of what we're looking at. Thank you.
Okay, before anybody say anything, I just want to get this out real quick. When they come to the census form, you can write in Afro descendant. See, I'm invisible. I can't write nothing, but you who visible, y'all can write in Afro descendant.
That's right.
You know, we should have these calls before because, you know, the census is almost done, unfortunately. And only a few places still haven't completed it. But that this has been good to have this on before. So we need to know that they can't go back and change it, unfortunately, at this point in time. But we need to know for future reference that we need to make sure that we tell everyone to put in Afro descendants.
And Dr. Butler, I'm going to send you, and I'm going to send Brother Stubberfield a link to connect. There's a lot of grassroots organizations that are gathering every week on Zoom calls and conference calls under the Afro Descendant Nation. And they're talking and discussing how we come together. And sure, we had numbers that came and dropped out. But we're going to keep the flag rolling for them. We're going to pick up and keep going. Everyone's not going to come in and pick up and tow the weight and tow it for the Afro-descendant nation. But there are some of us, we're going to do it despite what you want and get it done for you. And hopefully you will appreciate it. And part of that, what I see in the Jewish nation, going back to Israel, they have nationhood in Israel, and then they have citizenship in another country. And so you find Jewish people with citizenship in the U.S. who can go back and forth between Israel and the United States of America. Yes. What's wrong with that if we're able to set up an Afro-descendant nation and we can keep dual citizenship in the U.S. or dual citizenship in Brazil or dual citizenship in Colombia? What's wrong with that? I probably won't ever come back to the U.S. if we were able to fly our flag. Because I want self-determination. Pardon me?
I think that's coming, especially some of the African nations now. So we will be having some discussions, especially with Ghana. We've asked Ghana, what are you going to do for us? So I think that Ghana, Nigeria, and Sierra Leone right now are looking at how they can do more for us here in this continent and get that dual citizenship. So I think it's coming.
And Brother Robert said it best. We need land. We need a land that we can call our own.
Yeah, and if I may comment on that as well, you know, two things. One, I want to say thank you, Brother Williams. You know, I personally have found that he's one of the righteous ones, you know. So, but also, too, one of the things that Ghana and Sierra Leone have is known as the right of return. Ghana, I think, the instituted that was at, 2018, 2019. The president said, like, you know, I'm going to have the right of return. Those who are descendants from the diaspora, they can come back here and settle. So I think that does give, I think, a good blueprint. And if I were to look back at the past for like dual citizenship, if we were to take a look at Washington and Dubois and Garvey's plans, in my opinion, all of them were valid in their own right. And I think if we were to combine them in the sense that, you know, we can use the Garveyite perspective to help build connections in Africa, you know, and especially Ghana, Nigeria, Sierra Leone, for starters, to really help establish like a true international trade link. It could really help us out here for those who may, you know, in the U.S. or Brazil or Cuba, etc., to really help, you know, foster like the international trade relationship as well as help build up another source of revenue and wealth and generational wealth building in a sense. Okay. If we combine all of them, instead of taking a look at which one's better, it's like, let's combine them, you know, so.
Well, I just want to say one thing that, as you know, last year was a year of return for Ghana. And this year, unfortunately, COVID-19 hit, but they started Beyond the Return. Now, the Beyond Return is going to be a 10-year initiative where we're hopefully getting folks to go back to the motherland. Nigeria started the door of return. Sierra Leone has started a return. So we have opportunities now, and I've been very fortunate with myself and my family to actually be able to go back to Ghana. I am married to a Ghanaian, so he actually has dual citizenship now in Ghana and here. And so I'm actually applying for my dual citizenship so I can have my Ghanaian citizenship as well as my U.S. citizenship, so I can be a dual citizen. And I'm hoping that more countries on the continent start welcoming us back home and really start talking about how we can resettle, and not just resettle and leave. People say, oh, I don't want to go and leave the United States, but we can go back and forth like other people can go back and forth. We will be able to go back and forth. We can have land here, have land there. And I'm going to tell you honestly, the motherland is truly, truly where we should be putting our seeds down, building businesses. It is an open landmark for us. And I do have a business there now. We have a couple of businesses there, and I'll tell you honestly, they want us, and they're accepting of it. It's not like here. You might have those stumbling blocks, but it's nothing like what you have to go through in the United States to really be part of the fabric of the country and the continent and the people that you want to serve. So I want to just, yes,
You have 3 minutes.
Okay, 3 minutes. I'd like to get one thing out.
Hold on.
In those 3 minutes.
You can be a triple citizen because the Afro-descendant nation wants you to be a citizen. Go ahead. I'm through. That's
okay.
it.
With this Black Lives Matter movement, the Afro-descendant nation wanted to put out a slogan, and I want to give you the slogan. And the Afro-Descendants Nation slogan is, self-determination is our right, separation with all our might, and reparations is our fight. So self-determination is our right, Article 1 of the UN Charter. Separation with all our might, reparations is our fight.
And that was my slide. I was going to put up last, but guess what? We have another caller. We have one more caller that we're going to take, and then we're going to close off. And I want the both of you to close off. But we have one more caller. I really want to take this caller. Caller, can you state your name, your first name, where you're calling from, and your question, please?
Yes, my name is Kamal. I'm in Chicago, Illinois, and I have a question mainly for Governor General, and that is, of course, the Honorable Silas Muhammad has made great strides to put us on the path of reparations. What needs to be, or what needs to happen going forward to seal the deal on reparations? That's my question.
That's a good question.
Yeah, thank you, caller. And that's really those next steps.
I think the next steps we begun to talk about, we need to galvanize this movement, and we need to put this movement under this umbrella, under this Afro-descendant nation, regardless of religious affiliations, regardless of grassroots or community affiliations, we're all Black. And when we say Black Lives Matter, it doesn't matter your background. They don't look at your background when they pull you over and they have that harsh conversation with you. They're looking at your Black skin. And I think part of us moving forward is galvanizing under this umbrella, this Afro-descendant nation, and moving forward and getting ideas from all organizations. No one organization has all the answers. And that's why we need to have heart to heart. The Honorable Silas Muhammad years ago asked the UN for regional seminars. I attended 4 of them, one in Santiago, Chile, one in Montreal, Canada, one in Chincha, Peru.
Yes, sir.
And the Honorable Silas Muhammad made the last one in La Ceiba, Honduras, where we came up with this term in 2002, Afro-descendant, with 19 other countries who were in the slavery diaspora. So that's part of it. Let's get under this umbrella, let's galvanize and continue to move forward while we got this momentum. Thank you.
Robert, do you have any last comments on what are some next steps that we can do? And then and then we're going to play a video. We're off for this tonight, and then next week, please join in next week. We will be having the SBA here and talking about just how to start a business and what are the steps. So, Robert.
Okay, so my thing is this, first I just want to say thanks so much to the people who called in, as well as thanks again, Governor Mukaram, for all that you do, and thank you, Dr. Butler, for having me. Next steps I feel that are important is that we start doing the work. We start going into our communities and really start doing the work of getting together. Because as Mr. Mukaram so eloquently stated, and as you said earlier, it doesn't matter if you're West Indian, from the Dominican Republic, from here. They don't care about that when they pull you over, when you're getting beat by police. They don't care about that when you're being denied a loan for a business, even if you have A1 credit and the collateral to back it up. The first thing they see is your skin tone and where you come from. And so we have to really get past all that, because the only difference between all that is where your boat stops. That's essentially it. The next thing that we also have to do is that we now have to start having these planning sessions with these groups, because that is very important, because again, no one person, no one organization has all the answers. If they did, we'd all be a part of it. Yes. So it's very important that we start coming together, come up with a very strong, comprehensive, and holistic program for reparations. And finally, I think this is very key and very important, is that we start building connections with countries in the motherland. We talked about Ghana, Sierra Leone, Nigeria, but another country that I'm surprised didn't get talked about was Liberia. And Liberia is very important because that was a nation that, descendants of former descendants of enslaved Africans here in the U.S. helped found. And so because of that, I think part of the Constitution, I got to double check it, but part of the Constitution states that if you are a descendant of enslaved Africans from the United States, you have dual citizenship with Liberia. All you have to do is just apply for it. I got to double check, but I think that's what the Constitution states in Liberia. So that's another thing we got to start building on. We're building these connections. So.
Well, I want to thank both our guests. This has been so enlightening for many. And this is Reparations Only Part 2. We're going to continue on this. And next week, we're going to also continue our dialogue on how to create wealth, because that's what it's really about. We need to create wealth and close that economic gap so we can change what that slide looked like. But we really have to do this, and we want people on how we can join together and do some of this work. But I want to thank my guest again. And Pierre, could you play the last video, just the last video, and then we're going off and we want to talk about this. You do have my email. Yes. Please email me if you have any questions, comments. It is on the screen. Could you email me? Pierre, can we just show that 1 minute video? It's a 1 minute clip video on the house, the floor house, with Ayanna Pressley. The one's Ayanna Pressley on the floor of Congress talking about reparations. Can you please play that last video? I cannot see.
Thanks for having us, Dr. Butler. Nice to share the platform with you, Brother Robert.
All right, likewise, Mr. Mukaram. I look forward to working with you in the future. And Dr. Butler, once again, thank you for having us on this panel. We really appreciate it. And thank you so much for all that you do and for all you do, Mr. Mukaram.
Yes, thank you. So I'm asking Pierre just to play that one video, and we want to close it off with that video. I'm not sure if
watch of a Union general. After word got out to the press, the Secretary of War
not that video.
Control.
It was
he
the
met
last
with 20
video.
black church leaders who suggested that the formerly enslaved should get land of their own. And get this, the government actually said yes. Hey, what? Field Order number 15 was drawn up to redistribute 40 acres to the formerly enslaved. What happened to the 40 acres proposed to black folks, you say? Lincoln was assassinated and Andrew Johnson, a man who owned slaves, became president and threw the policy out the window. But throughout modern history, folks have made several attempts to keep the reparations conversation alive. In 1969, James Forman of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee wrote the Black Manifesto demanding reparations from white religious institutions. Starting in 1989,
Okay, we're gonna try to get
John
that.
Conyers introduced a bill.
Yeah, we're gonna try to get that video, the right video up. And it's just a minute video. We wanted to really close off with this video to talk. And this only happened a couple of maybe about a month ago, no more than 2 months ago. The video came out.
While there's a lull, 2 years ago, the Honorable Sayyid Muhammad said for us to take our place on the world stage at the Savior's Day address, which is every February. And then this past February, he said that he said, Afro-descendants, you have the legal right to self-determination. And I think it's awful strange that you got people all around the world holding up signs talking about Black Lives Matter. So this is our opportunity, and we can't afford to miss it.
And hopefully we won't miss this opportunity because it's so important, as you're saying, that we move forward. There we go. We have the right video.
On behalf of every family member that has been forced to see their loved one lynched on national television,
we're going to be off there.
Driving while Black, jogging while Black, sleeping while Black. We have been criminalized for the very way we show up in the world. Under the harsh gaze of far too many, my Black body is seen as a threat, always considered armed. Centuries of institutionalized oppression will not be undone overnight, for racism in America is as structural as the marble pillars of this very institution. With the power of the pen, we must legislate accountability, dismantle these systems, and move in the direction of justice and healing. The Justice and Policing Act is a critical step forward, and I applaud the leadership of the Congressional Black Caucus. But our work is unfinished. There is a rallying cry in communities across the nation. Black Lives Matter is a mandate from the people. It's time. Pay us what you owe us. Our Black skin is not a crime. It is the beautiful robe of nation builders. Thank you. I yield.
And again, I want to thank my guests, and that's it for tonight. And I hope to have you back on again. And thank you so much.
You're quite welcome.
No problem. I hope to be back.
Welcome to Afrique Today. My name is Harry Shangarai, and thank you for stopping by, checking with me. I'm here to just give you a few community updates. I believe this information is important, and please share with your neighbor, share with your friend. Of course, we're in the midst of the pandemic, and majority of us here in Montgomery County, we know that we're on a phase 2 reopening, and just want to let you know that you can get tested. There are many centers that have been put in place that do not need doctor's notes to get tested. So the number to call is 240-777-1755. If you don't remember that number, just call 311 and get information about testing centers. We have testing center at Germantown, another one at Wheaton, and White Oak. So there's no reason why, if you believe you've been exposed to COVID, you should not get tested. Also, we have pop-up testing centers that come up every now and then. Just by calling that number, you can get to learn about all the facilities that you can get tested and be able to protect your family and protect everyone around you. That being said, just want to tell you, all these resources are being put in place because of the response that we put for census, where is the fund and grant money allocated for different activities. So I just want to remind you, it is important to get counted. Make sure you have completed your census. Starting August 8, the Census Bureau is going to send people at your door. They're going to be knocking the door to make sure they count each and every family. So if you have completed your census, you have nothing to worry, and thank you for doing that. But if you have not completed your census, they will be at your door. So what you want to do, which is pretty quick, takes just 10 minutes, go online, www.2020census.gov, and complete your census today. It is quick, it is easy, it is simple and safe. Another update I would like to give you, and this one I really think is just a heads up so you can keep checking. If you're a small business owner, there's a grant coming out for small business owners here in Montgomery County, and you may qualify up to $5,000 for expenses that you have incurred starting the COVID pandemic. That was March. So make sure you check the Montgomery County website, and that website is montgomerycountymd.gov/biz, BIZ space resources/reopen. Check back with us for more information. This is in the pipeline, but I want to keep you informed so you can start preparing yourself and get these resources to come and assist your business. One but not least is we all know that we have had eviction moratorium in place as well as utility. So as we are getting ready to reopen, and moratoriums that have been placed put by the governor of Maryland, some are getting ready to be lifted. So I want you to be on top of that, especially with the utility. Make sure you contact the companies that are serving you. If you're having difficulty making payments, make sure you speak or communicate to your landlord if you're falling behind your rent and whatnot, so that once the eviction moratoriums has been lifted or utility, you're still able to have some kind of a plan and you're keeping your family safe. Because at the end of the day, rent is due, rent is on, and you have to make payment plan. So please stay on top of that. I think that is very, very important. For today, I'm just going to leave you with that. Stay safe, put your mask, keep your long distance, protect others, protect yourself and your family. Thank you. You're watching Afrique Today, and this is Community Update with Harriet Shangarai. Take care.
Want to promote your business? Do you want to talk about your nonprofit organization? Do you want to talk about your culture? Introducing the online web TV, Afrique Today. Fogham, where you can watch us live at the same time on 4 platforms: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and using the Afrique Today app. Download our app today for Android or Apple. Promote your business today. For more information, go to www.afriquetoday.com. Afrique Today, the best of digital TV. ESYDA returned to play summer clinics. Recreation, Tuesday and Thursday, 6 to 8 p.m. Travel Team, EDP, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. Time, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Free mask and water bottle. Register today at esYDA.org. Email info@ESYDA. Phone 248-765-9369. Office 301-800-7848. Toll free 800-995-5532. Free registration for all summer clinics. All new players need buy uniforms. We're following COVID-19 soccer guidelines. Small group practice with 9 players and 1 coach. For more information, go to ESYDA.org.
Looking to start a rewarding career? Call Gandhi Healthcare today to earn your certification as a nursing assistant, dental assistant, pharmacy technician, phlebotomy technician, and many more. We offer no interest payment plans, scholarships, and tuition reimbursements for those that qualify. Located right in the heart of Pikesville on Reicherstown Road and McHenry Avenue in the Pikesville Shopping Center. It offers immediate access from 695, accessible to public transportation on the 83 and 89 bus line. We offer morning, evening, and weekend classes to fit your schedule. Earn your certification in as little as 5 weeks. We are now offering classes online and on-site. Hurry, classes start soon, so enroll today. Visit us online at gandhihealthcare.com or call 443-352-8030.
We're inviting you to watch a special program that will be broadcasted on Afrique Today, the digital Pan-African television of choice of the diaspora. Is based here in Washington, D.C. in the United States of America. That special program will be on coronavirus, COVID-19, that vicious pandemic that is killing hundreds and thousands of people, messing up their lives all around the world.
Do you want to promote your business? Do you want to talk about your nonprofit organization? Do you want to talk about your culture? Introducing the online web TV, Afrique Today. Fogham. You can watch us live at the same time on 4 platforms: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and using the Afrique Today app. Download our app today for Android or Apple. Promote your business today. For more information, go to www.afriquetoday.com.